4.
Good evening and welcome to Orkney International Science Festival 2022. My name is Catherine and it's my pleasure to be hosting this session. Our speaker today is Eric Walker. Eric is an enthusiastic astronomer and astrophotographer and acts as chairman of the Highlands Astronomical Society. He has built his own observatory in Conan Bridge suitable for solar and dark sky observing and imaging, where he uses an 11-inch Celestron SCT telescope and various cameras to create incredible images of the night sky. The all-sky camera that he built and assembled can be viewed 24/7 by anyone, anywhere. Eric previously worked in whiskey making, but retired in 2015 to indulge himself in everything he couldn't do when working. And luckily for us, Eric found his place in the festival when he was first invited to attend and present by Howie Firth in 2016. He's been a regular ever since, and the festival is burned in his calendar every year. He's very much looking forward to being physically back in Orkney to enjoy Everything Festival. Tonight we'll be joining Eric for a 45-minute talk on what to look for in our night sky and how to recognise it. There'll be pictures, star maps, and opportunities to ask questions about stars and planets, and using a telescope. I want to encourage you all to take part in this event and ask you to enter your comments and questions in the YouTube chat or on Slido, which is our new application this year. And you just follow the instructions shown today. So we've got the QR code there, which you can scan with your mobile device, or alternatively, you can access it through the website link and entering the code 3435541. Okay, so I will present these to Eric during and after the talk. Eric, it's over to you.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to talk again. I am actually in Kirkwall, which is wonderful. I haven't been here for 3 years, so it's just great to be over here again. Now, as luck would have it, the last 2 nights we have had crystal clear, beautiful skies, but tonight there is a wonderful Scottish cloud. But that is not going to detract from what I'm going to show you tonight. Tonight is intended to be an easy watch, and I'm going to show you how to get about, find your way about your own night sky, and point out some of the absolute wonders in the night sky that you can see for yourselves. So I am just about to share my screen with you, and hopefully you can see that.
We can see that perfectly, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Right. Orkney Night Sky. I have set this as if we were observing on North Ronaldsay. Now, the reason I've done North Ronaldsay, it was one of the first places I ever gave a talk to as part of the Science Festival. And also, North Ronaldsay obtained its Dark Skies community status last year from the International Dark Sky Association. It's a wonderful place to come and look at pristine dark night skies. I'm going to take the opportunity as well to tell you something about Highlands Astronomical Society, of which I'm the current chairman. If you want to find out the detail or more about us, you can scan these QR codes, or you can find us on the various social media. The web's got a lot of our information. Facebook we use all the time. That's used almost every day. There's events, photographs go up there, same with Instagram. But also we have a YouTube channel where you can see some of our past meetings and events. But we also do live webcasting of observance sessions, and you can join in with us and chat online with us when we do these. So if you're interested, feel free to come along. We have monthly club meetings, we have speakers, we have breakout groups, we've got practical observing programs, and the dark sky season's just about to start, probably third, fourth week in September. We give advice on equipment to buy, use, how to use it, and we coach people to use it. We have a very, very active astrophotography group, and some of us, we also do STEM and public outreach to the public, to other clubs and to schools and things like that. Here's our observatory up at Culloden, right next to the Culloden Battlefield Visitor Centre. And we have external scopes. These are the guys, some of them preparing to set up a scope for the evening observing. And something we love doing, we've started doing this the last few years, we do pop-up observatories. We bring the observatory to you, and this was a solar observatory at Rosemarkie Beach one Saturday. Great fun for both the people looking, and it's great fun for us. We absolutely love doing that. This is where we are. We're considerably further south than Orkney, but we're still far enough north. This is my observatory, 57.5 degrees north. I've got pretty good rural skies, not as dark as North Ronaldsay, but they're dark enough that I can clearly see the Milky Way and some of the faint fuzzy objects, as we call them, in the sky. This is my observatory in my back garden. So it's a miniature version of the club observatory, but it's my home in the winter and early springtime. And this is some of the equipment that I've got that Catherine described in her introduction of myself. Anyway, on to tonight. What am I going to tell you about? Well, I'm going to show you how to find your way about the night sky. There are some naked eye planets that you can see right at the moment. Everyone knows that you can see the Northern Lights, or the Mirror Dancers up here, and they have really come to the fore just now. But for those of you who can't get out, or you're maybe watching from a town or a city or a place that's got terrible light pollution, you can actually view from your armchair. I'm going to take you through how to do that through the all-sky camera. And I'm going to indulge myself right at the end and show you some of the astrophotographs that I take myself. It's my passion, really. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So, signposts in the sky, or how do you find your way about the night sky? The sky, when you look up into it, it's beautiful, but then you have no idea what you're looking at or where you're looking at. It's also not helped with the fact that the Earth rotates and all the stars move around the sky, and they change position actually pretty quickly when you're outside. So here is an example of one part of the sky. We're looking sort of in the southwest region at 11 o'clock this evening. And what you're looking at, you will see 3 bright stars. See in this highlighted area, there's three bright stars, and you can join them up to form an imaginary triangle, and that's called the summer triangle. It's a great thing to find because from that you can bear off it and find lots of other things in the sky. There's one area that you'll probably be familiar with already. Most people are familiar with it, and that's if you look virtually due north, and you will see in this area the plough. Now we call it the plough. The Americans, I think they call it the ladle or the Big Dipper. The French call it, oh my goodness, what was it? It's the big saucepan anyway. I mean that they have, and this is a very, very useful asterism to find things, because if you extend the arc of the tail of the plough, you arc down to a very, very big and bright red star called Arcturus. So you arc to Arcturus. And if you use the two end stars in the bow, the pointer stars they point right up to the pole star. It's virtually due north. So you can practice that. If you get the hang of those two asterisms I've just shown you, you will find others in astronomy magazines or online, and you can find them and then you can bear off them and find areas of the sky of interest. Now, something that really stands out at this time of year is the Milky Way. Now, if you were in North Ronaldsay or a pretty dark rural site, at this time of year, if you look directly overhead, so this is the whole sky in one picture, and it's a strange alignment. I've got north on the right, and so it's the north horizon. The edge is the horizon. North horizon on the right, south horizon on the left. There's a reason for that, you'll see later. East is at the top, west at the bottom, and the center is the sky directly above your head. Okay, so you have to imagine that you're looking into a dome from underneath. Now, at this time of year, the Milky Way is directly overhead, and it runs from the southwest horizon right over you, right through to the northeast horizon. In a dark sky, it is absolutely clear. It looks like a hazy cloud, and in a very dark sky, you can actually see the dust clouds that break it up. It's an absolutely wonderful thing. Now, once you find the Milky Way, you will be able to find some of the constellations. Now, this overlay looks a bit messy, but I'll pick out a few. So you're looking at the Milky Way. If you look near the northeast, just above the northeast horizon, you will see a group of 5 stars with a very bright navigation star called Capella. That's the constellation Auriga, the Charioteer. There's another one that looks like an upside down Y. That's Perseus, a hunter. There is a W or an M, depending which way you're looking at it. That's Cassiopeia, the Queen of Ethiopia. You then have Cygnus, the swan, or the Northern Cross, it's sometimes called in modern times. And then you have Aquila, the eagle. Again, it's topped by a very bright star called Altair. That's the eagle's eye. And those are all lying within the Milky Way. So they're an easy spot. So you can either use the Milky Way to find the constellations, or you can use the constellations to find the Milky Way. It depends what you're trying to do that night. But go outside when it's clear and have a look, have a practice at doing that, and you'll start to find you can navigate the night sky very, very easily. Now, at the moment, we are very fortunate. There are 5 planets which you can observe. However, there are 3 of them which are naked eye visible at the moment. Again, at 11 o'clock tonight, if you were looking out from North Ronaldsay, now this is actually valid for anywhere in the north of Scotland borders, if you're down in England, you will also be able to see them. It's just that they'll be higher up. They'll be up there rather than down 5 or 10 degrees above the horizon. And those naked eye planets that you can see, so you do not need any viewing aid, you don't need binoculars, you don't need a telescope, and you will be able to see Mars in the east-northeast, about 5 degrees above the horizon, 8 degrees maybe, Jupiter, which is extremely bright in the southeast, and Saturn as well. That will be due south as you're looking at it from anywhere at 11 o'clock on our longitude and latitude. There are two other planets that are visible, Uranus and Neptune. However, you will need a viewing aid. You will need at least 10 by 50 binoculars and probably a small scope on a steady mount to see them. They look sort of turquoise or blue, but you can spot them. But if you're not experienced in observing, stick to looking at Mars and Jupiter and Saturn. And it's always satisfying when you find a target that you're looking for. Now, this is Mars. Now, this is a telescope stroke astrophotography image of Mars. Mars is the red planet, and you will see the planet. It looks red, and there are actually there are moons. There are a couple of bright moons around it. They are very small and they do look like stars. You'll need binoculars to see it. Not as this. You'll see it as a big red dot, and you'll see the moons just as little white pinpricks. It's worth having a look through binoculars to see if you can see see the redness of Mars. One that is worth looking through binoculars or a small telescope is Jupiter. Now, Jupiter, if you mount your binoculars, if you put them on a wall or something that keeps them very, very steady, you will be able to see these cloud bands. You will definitely see them, even through a pair of 10 by 50 binoculars. The other thing you will see are these 4 bright Galilean moons, Callisto, Europa, Io, and Ganymede. Now, these moons don't stay in a fixed position. Like our moon, they orbit round Jupiter. And it looks like they move and they change position. It looks like they dance. And you can see even within a few hours, they start to change position. And this is what Galileo observed. And of course, why are they moving from left to right all the time? And then he deduced that, of course, these moons are orbiting the planet. And of course, he published that. But in those days, the Catholic Church was, they did not, everything revolved around the earth, and this was heresy. So the Inquisition, they found him guilty. Fortunately, they didn't sentence him to some of the bad things that happened to some people, but he was put under house arrest in Genoa, I think, for the rest of his life. But you can observe that for yourself with a pair of binoculars, and that's worth doing. You can observe them over a period of different nights, and you will see a considerable amount of movement. So it's a great thing to try and do. And Saturn, well, Saturn is just it's a wow planet for me. If you get a good pair of binoculars, but if you can borrow somebody's telescope, or you find an astronomy club that will let you look through a telescope, you will see Saturn, and you will see the rings around the planet. And it looks just stunning. It's a beautiful planet to observe, and the rings are very clear at the moment. You can see the oval of the rings very, very clearly. The other thing you can see through a telescope, you'll see this bright moon, Titan, and it's distinct. It's pretty bright. It's hard to see these other ones. You need to know what you're looking for, but it's all very good. Now, the other thing that is wonderful to see in a dark sky, and especially if you are far north, although this year, this season, which is what we call the season, it's only just started, and we're already starting to see the Northern Lights. The Northern Lights are associated with activity solar activity. And the sun erupts sometimes and sends out energy through space. If it's Earth directed, it hits our atmosphere, it excites our atmosphere, and it temporarily sort of decombines the nitrogen and the oxygen in our atmosphere. And when they recombine, they give out light and they give out colours. And those are what are called, that's the aurora borealis, the northern lights or southern lights in our aurora australis down south. But these are an absolutely wonderful sight. And this is a picture that I managed to get in 2014 with a camera, DSLR camera. And you could clearly see the pale green brightness in a sort of in a ribbon, in a loop. You could just see the green. The red was hard to see, but the camera picks up all the colour, and it's easy to bring that out when you process the image. But it was that powerful. I remember this streamer, this red streamer on the left edge, which has now got a name called Steve, and I can't remember what that acronym stands for, but it's some energy emission, and it's quite, there's people studying that now, but that was visible to the naked eye. You can get the position here, it's due north actually. There's the plough upside down. That's the pole star, the North Star. I told you about an upside down Y constellation, Perseus. So there's where you are. So you're looking north and you're looking through the Milky Way, and that's just a wonderful sight. Anyway, the aurora borealis, as I say, they have enthralled, they have scared people, they've inspired people in different cultures throughout time. You can read about them in various cultures' mythology, their poetry, their prose, their drawings, modern photographs. As I say, during the dark nights, they can frequently be seen in high northern latitudes. We're seeing them almost twice, 3 times a week at the moment. And as it gets darker earlier, you've got a great chance of seeing even more. So I said it's intense solar activity. They travel millions of miles, and it only takes a couple of days for them to travel through space and collide with our atmosphere. So how do you know they're on their way or they're there right now? Well, there's an app that has become the benchmark, and it's called Aurora Alerts UK, or the Glendale app, it's sometimes known as. It was designed and built, and it's maintained by an amateur astronomer, Andy Stables, on Sky. And if you want to find it, just Google aurora-alerts.uk and you'll get it. It's a web-based app. It's not like an app that you buy or anything off online. It's free. It's a web-based app, and it's easy to set up. I actually think it's the best, the most accurate alerting and forecasting app. You just input your location, and you will learn how to interpret the data. There are little help screens, but there are so many people use it now that if you go on Facebook forum and things like that, they will help you work out how to use it. If you can, try and photograph the aurora. It gives you a souvenir. You do need 3 things to do it well. That's a tripod, a digital camera, and you do need patience. You have to be patient. You need a long exposure, so you set your camera to manual. And how long do you give it? Well, if it's a very weak aurora, it might take 20 seconds or more, and needs a long exposure. But a strong aurora, like the one I showed you, that can be as low as a second. They're that bright. You manually focus on the lens, and you don't use auto, you use manual focus, and you can use street lights or a bright star or something to get your focus perfect. And you need to have, the sensitivity has to be high, so you use a high ISO setting. I tend to use ISO 1600, but what you can do, the great thing with digital camera is you take as many shots with different exposures or settings as possible, and then you find out the right one. So it's not like the old days, which some of you are watching might remember, where you had a roll of film, you sent it away, and if you were lucky, the chemist or the film processor sent it back to you with shots, but that took a week or two rather than instant. So you have a look in your screen after you've taken each shot and you just adjust it accordingly and to get the perfect picture. Once you've got a good picture or good exposure, you just try and turn the camera, try not to change its vertical angle, and you can then take a panorama, and by taking overlapping shots, and again, you get software that will stitch it all together and you'll get a wonderful wide angle, high detailed image. So worth a look. This has been recorded on YouTube, so, you know, if you want to go back and get the detail of this, just go back tomorrow and have a look, and the instructions will all be there for you. And here are some pictures that I've taken. This is overlooking the Cromarty Firth, looking towards Invergordon, and wonderful juxtaposition of artificial lights with the auroral arch. That's the green auroral arch that forms, and low clouds and blue, well, dark blue sky it would be. There's a couple more. This is arty for me. I've actually managed to get a tree in it, you know, rather than just a technical aurora. And of course, you see all the stars. If you look closely, you can see some of the dust clouds in the Milky Way that I was talking about earlier. Those are car headlights in the distance. And here are some Orkney pictures from Orkney. Bill Hodgson. This was 2021, so last year. And because you're that far north, they get even stronger aurora than I do at 57.5 degrees north. You can see the arch, and you can see some dancers dancing off the arch. So the Mirrey dancers, as I said, they're called. And this is Tingwell. This will be Sue Shackleton. Sue is actually a member of Highlands Astronomy Club, even though she lives up here in Orkney. And you can see the wonderful green of the aurora. Can you see these dancers? Wonderful dancers, and you can see some of the purple rays as well coming off them. There's the plough, there's the bowl of the plough. So you're looking virtually due north. And there, I think, is a little satellite or a meteor streak. So a lot of things in these, but wonderful, beautiful pictures. Now, I mentioned as well that you don't have to go outside just now. There is something I built in the COVID days, the first lockdown. I got bored, as I do, and I thought, what on earth can I do? I like to challenge myself, and I thought, I want to build an all-sky camera. I saw something on the internet. I thought, I'm going to have a go at building this, and there was a French fellow who put his methodologies project on the internet, and I thought, oh, I think I can do this, but you know, I'm not a computer programmer, I'm not a coder. I use cameras, but you know, I'm not that great at putting things together. But I thought, to hang with it, I'm going to have a go. So I had a go, and I got the bits and I put them together. I did that with relative ease. My hardest bit was the coding for, I've got a Raspberry Pi and I hadn't got a clue how to code it. The only computer program I ever did was BASIC or COBOL or Fortran, and that was back in the 70s. So that's how long ago that was. Coding is a completely different ballgame where, you know, electronics and chips talk to machines, talk to hardware, and it was just out of my league. But fair play, I got in touch with the Canadian lad, and he actually walked me through how to do it. I still don't fully understand the coding, but I got it in, and I got it to work. And now I've got it to work, I don't want to ever adjust it, but I'm going to take you through what you can do with this, because you can tap into this anywhere you are in the world. I have the camera going 24/7. During the daytime, you can observe it and you can see whether it's sunny or cloudy or raining in Conan Bridge near Dingwall. But at night time, once the skies get to a certain darkness, it automatically starts to take long exposure images, 40 seconds at a sort of low to medium gain, and it brings out what's in the star. You can actually see the Milky Way. You can see some of the bright, faint, fuzzy objects, which I'll show you in just a short while. It's a great project. It was a great project. This is the actual all-sky camera bit on top of my roof. And I know I'm going to have to get rid of the moss on the roof before anybody tells me again, but I'd rather spend my time building the camera. And what I did was, this is just an astro camera. It's color. It's got a wide fisheye lens, so it gives me I can see from horizon to horizon using this lens. It's got an acrylic dome, optical quality acrylic dome to protect it. I had to make a shield for it because, you know, my neighbour's security lights and some of the street lights were just dazzling us. Another pastime of mine is 3D printing. So I was able to design and 3D print the shutter, and it works great. Inside this drain pipe, which is it holds all the gubbins, the electronic gubbins. It holds the Raspberry Pi computer. It holds the power. It holds the Ethernet connection. And you might just see here, there's an Ethernet cable, and that runs along my roof, down my wall, and in through the window to my office stroke workshop in my house, much to my wife's delight. The poor lady has to put up an awful lot with me, but, well, keeps me out of mischief. So that sits on top of my roof, pointing straight up at the sky. As I say, works 24/7, and anyone can use this. What can you see? Well, here is a single image. So if you go at any moment in time, you can look up and you will see, I think you can you see the Milky Way? Now, the reason I aligned the map when I showed you earlier was because I have set this up so that the long axis is, the north is on the right and the south is on the left, because for me, that is my most interesting axis to view, because in the north, I very often get the northern lights. And in actual fact, this single image, you see this brightness on the north horizon. So west is down the bottom, east is up the top, north is to the right, south is to the left. So from northwest, north, through northeast horizon, this brightness is actually the aurora borealis. That brightness, the very bright bit, that's the auroral arch. And if you look closely, you can see purple-pink rays dancing off it. Okay, so that's what you can see when there's an aurora. You see the Milky Way, you see these dust clouds within the Milky Way. And that is also, that's bright Jupiter. So you can see all these things, no problem. Here, so this is north, remember, there is the Plough asterism. And if you extend the pointer stars of the Plough, you find the pole star. So remember what I taught you in the beginning, use the asterisms and the constellations as signposts to find something else. Up here is the upside down Y of Perseus and the W or the M of Cassiopeia. So these are in the Milky Way path. And if you look in between them, can you see that faint fuzzy patch? That's a cluster of stars called the double cluster. Now you can see that cluster with the naked eye. It does look like a fuzzy patch with the naked eye. If you take binoculars and aim it there, you will see dozens of stars. It's like jewels on a black velvet background. It's a beautiful sight through binoculars. And if you have a small telescope, you can bring out even more stars, and you'll see some with colours in them. That's a beautiful area to look at. So as I say, use the constellations as your signposts, and it helps you find interesting objects. There's another area here. If you can see, there are 4 stars that look like a square. So this is in the, it's quite high up. This is in the southeast. So that's the southeast, but it's quite high up the sky, because if you remember, this is directly overhead, so it's halfway up the sky. It's a big area, so you'll see the square. And if you bear off it, so off the top left star as you look at it, you go up 1, you go up 2, then you go up 1 star, and you go up another 1, and you hit another faint fuzzy area. And you can see this with the naked eye. You sometimes have to look out the side of your eye to see this, but it's a faint fuzzy thing. And it's the furthest away object you can see with the naked eye. It's the Andromeda Galaxy, called M31 or Messier 31, but it's the Andromeda Galaxy. It's 2.5 million light years away. So the light that you're seeing now started to come our way 2.5 million years ago. It's just mind-blowing when you think about it. So that's the furthest thing you can see with the naked eye. You take binoculars or a small telescope to that area, and you will start to see that it's not a faint fuzzy area, that there's actually some shape and structure to it. I've got a picture in in my gallery I'm going to show you at the end, and you'll see what it looks like through a sort of enthusiastic amateur's telescope and camera. So that's a single image. Oh. So when you go on the website, you will, this is what you'll see the map, you'll see the picture. If you click on the little button on the top left, looks like a zigzag, it's Cassiopeia, it brings up a constellation overlay. So if you're wanting to learn how to find your way about the sky, you can use the All Sky camera, you can use the website page as a teaching aid, as a coaching aid for yourself. And there's some of the constellations I was talking about. So you can see them, you can toggle that on and off, and you can start to learn what it is you're looking at. It also brings up, it's got planets on it as well. So if the planet's visible, it'll highlight those as well. So very useful little tool. I've got a time lapse here now, something it does. In every morning, every single image that it's captured, so every 40-second it's captured, it joins them all together and it makes them into a time lapse. Now I've speeded this up because I usually set it so I've got 2.5 minutes of time lapse to view in the morning to see if it's picked up anything interesting. But I just want to show you what it sees. So here we go. So you see that, you can see the rotation of, it looks like the rotation of the sky, but of course it's the Earth that's rotating. It's a lovely device for showing you what the weather was at night. That's the moon that's come through, and the moon sometimes has a 22-degree halo in it, and that you can see the 22-degree halo. So wonderful. I'll just play it once more, just to let you see. There's the Milky Way, there's the planet. So it's the time lapse is fascinating. As I say, I usually have a look at it every morning if it's been a clear night to see whether there's anything interesting passed over, like satellites or meteors or aircraft or whatever. And I'll show you some of these in a minute. Another fascinating thing it does, and these are beautiful images, I have to say. You can click on one of the menu items down the left-hand side. It looks like a circle, an unclosed circle, a horseshoe. And you'll get into the star trail menu. And again, it stitches every single image it's captured, but in a different way. And you end up with these wonderful, beautiful star trails. Now you can see in the middle here that this one hasn't moved a lot. Well, that's the pole star, because the pole star is nearly at the center of the concentric circles. But as you go further out, right, they get longer as they go further out. Now you'll see the very bright, thick images. That's the very bright ones. That was Jupiter. But something else you might notice, some of the lines are thicker and some of the lines are thinner. That's tied in with how bright the star was. So a very bright star, you get a thicker line, and a fainter star, you get a thin line. But also in here, if you look closely, you'll see different colours. Some are white, some are pale blue, some are reddy orange, and that is actually the colour of the stars. So some stars are on the sort of the last bits of their life. They tend to be red stars. They're using up all their fuel. So the blue stars, they're burning extremely hot. That's a hot star, and they can be young stars, they can be big stars, and they're burning bright and furious, and they're burning blue. And then you have other stars that are white stroke yellow, like our sun. They're very average stars, or they could be in the middle of their life cycle. So although it's a beautiful image, there's actually a lot of astronomical and scientific image in this information in this image as well. So I also like looking at this because if there have been meteors and things, you can see them quite clearly streaking across the paths of the stars. Satellites. There are many, many, many satellites in the sky, and it's amazing. Even when you're outside, just looking up, especially at dusk and dawn, or just past dusk and dawn, and you'll see lots of satellites moving around the sky. The all-sky is particularly good at picking up very bright satellites, and this is a short time lapse of the International Space Station passing. So I'll just play it, let you see. If you look up the left side, and this is a slowed down one, you see Orion, the constellation, and the space station is passing by. So it's cool. I'll do it once more. If you look on the left-hand edge, I think you can do it. Oh, sorry, doesn't matter. Yeah, if you look in the left-hand edge of the image, you'll see the space station passing. And again, it's passing there. So there's tons of things you can do with the images from this all-sky camera. Now, it doesn't just pick up satellites. It picks up anything that flies overhead. Now this, I got one morning, what on earth was that? And then I got a flight tracker, and it turns out this was an air ambulance that had flown directly over my house at well, sometime during the night, and that was its lights. That was the helicopter navigation lights. It must be, as it flew directly over the camera. Now I was talking about streaks in the camera. You see these things? You see some of these streaks? Some of these are flaring satellites, and some of them are actually meteors that have passed by. And I don't know if you can see this line of red, these dots. Well, again, these are the flashing navigating lights of some aircraft that's flown overhead during the night. Meteors, it is fantastic for picking up bright meteors. And this was one back last year in 2021, 10/15. So that is the 15th of October, 2021. So just under a year ago. And bear in mind, this is north, so this was a fantastically bright meteor, or a fireball it would be. It would, if you were outside, you would see this, no problem. It would catch your eye, it was that bright. And this is a mountain called Ben Wyvis, which is just 4 or 5 miles north of me in Conan Bridge. And that looked like the fireball was crashing straight into the mountain. There's a close-up of it. Very, very bright meteor. And again, it's amazing how many of these there are during the night or during the week. And when you get the famous meteor showers like the Perseids or the Taurids or whatever, the Leonids, during those periods of peak activity, you get masses of these things, and they're great to have a look at. I usually set this all-sky camera up. I actually webcast it for 6-7 hours during the night, and to let people go in and comment as they're live watching it. There's another very bright fireball. Again, if you'd seen that would have lit up that part of the sky. It was that bright. The northern lights we talked about before, the Mirror Dancers. This was a very powerful one on the 17th of September last year, so virtually a year ago. And there you can see the bright arch with all these pink, purple rays dancing off it. These are the Mirror dancers there. And it was that strong that even with the moon, because that brightness there is the moon in the east rising, and you can still see the northern lights. It was that powerful. But you also get some unexpected things. Here's one in the 28th of November, and you've got the wispy cirrus clouds all across the sky. But I've got a wee beastie. We get visited by beasties quite often, and the camera is great for capturing those. I actually had we had a pet in there. If any of you were at the talk yesterday about the ticks, the Welsh fella Kelsey, he loved his pets. Well, this one I discovered was living inside my all sky camera, and we christened her Henrietta the spider. She's no longer there, but she enjoyed her little time last year. She appeared very often. And one day I was looking through my images and I saw this on the top, and it's actually my cat. It's my cat Marty taking a selfie. Worked out how to take a selfie using my all sky camera, and one of the wits in my club christened this the Cat's Head Nebula. So there are some expected and unexpected sights you see with this camera. Now, I'm going to bring this presentation to a close, and this is my self-indulgent part. So I'm going to show you some astro pictures that I take with the telescope and the camera setup that you saw a picture of as I was introducing this talk. So there are some more. There's some more star trails and things like that. So I've explained all these. You can clearly in this one, you can clearly see the different colours of stars. Now, can you see these three very close lines together? So this is the winter. This is 2021, 01, 05, 06. So it's the night of the 5th and 6th of January 2021. And in the winter, one of the biggest, most dominant constellations you can see is the constellation of Orion. And most people know the belt stars, the three stars that are close together that form Orion's belt. And that is those three. That's the three belt stars as they move across the sky throughout the night. So that's what that is. Aurora, the camera settings, the techniques I described to you, you can capture images like this if you find the right location and the right time. Use the app to tell you when the aurora strength is up, and you will be able to take pictures like this. You can clearly see the green auroral arch. You can clearly see the dancers coming off it. And again, if you want to start becoming arty, there's the Cromarty Firth and the Cromarty Bridge with car headlights and some town lights Dingwall over there. So wonderful pictures. There's some more. Again, there's the auroral arch. You can see the dancers. You can see the pinky purple there in the blue sky above. You see these rays there? So as I say, you have a go and you'll start to be able to do this. And everyone that takes aurora pictures has to do this shot. You've got to have a little self-timer and you get yourself in there. It's just a thing you have to do. And then you post it on social media and get absolutely slammed for it, but you have to do that. I mentioned the double cluster in Perseus. So that's right between it's actually between the constellation of Perseus and Cassiopeia. It's that smudge in between them. And when you put a telescope and a camera on, this is what I mean by you get these beautiful jewels on a black velvet background. And you can see the white stars, the pale blue stars. So these are quite young stars, all burning really hot. There's some old stars in the cluster burning reddy orange, but Isn't that just, it's a beautiful picture. And through binoculars, you'll see more stars, strange enough. It's difficult to process, but it's just it's a wonderful sight. Have a go and try and find that over the season. It's there all the time, actually. It's that constellation, that feature, the double cluster, is in the sky all year round. You obviously can't see it in the summer because it's permanent daylight up here, but yeah. You'll have heard, I would think, of the Seven Sisters. The real name is the Pleiades. If you have a Japanese car with the badge Subaru, look at the Subaru badge and you will see it is the bright stars of the constellation, of the cluster, the Pleiades, Seven Sisters. Now, when you get your camera settings right, you can take a long exposure and you find that these stars are actually going through a dust cloud. And it's like shining a torch in a dusty room. Or if some of you are older, you'll remember if you were in a cinema and people were smoking and light was reflecting off the smoke dust. That's the same idea. So this is going through a cloud of dust in space, and these stars are illuminating it, and you can see the blue-green structure of the dust cloud. This cluster of stars is currently passing through. I mentioned the Andromeda Galaxy. So again, that's the one you find the square of Pegasus and bear off it, and you'll find that smudge, the furthest thing you can see with the naked eye, 2.5 million light years away. And when you put a good telescope and a good camera on it, and you know how to process it, you can, this is like, it's a side-on spiral structured galaxy. There's a dense core that bulges out in the middle. It spirals. You can see the dust lanes. There's dust in between us and the constellation and the galaxy. You see these pinky purple areas here. Those are areas which are bursting into new stars. Now, those were new stars 2.5 million years ago. So they're now not new stars, they're 2.5 million year old ones. But that's what we currently see. And these are two other neighboring galaxies. So this is a spiral galaxy, massive, and these ones are elliptical galaxies, M32 and M110. Wonderful, boring names, but that's what they are. Nice picture though. The Dumbbell Nebula, Messier 27. It was called the Dumbbell, but modern people think it looks more like an apple core, and I would have to agree. I think that looks much more like an apple core. And this is a star that has come to the end of its life. The energy that it's making isn't enough to stop the mass collapsing into itself. It collapses into itself, it implodes, and then it explodes, and it puts out this bubble ripple of elements into space, and it forms this beautiful planetary nebula, it's called. And there's lots of these in the sky if you know where to look. So that's a dead star and thrown out its remains into space. This, on the other hand, is a nebula of hydrogen gas. It's a cloud, and this is called the Heart Nebula for obvious reasons. It's actually shaped like a heart. And this is an area of star birth. The hydrogen comes together and it comes together and it gets so dense, it eventually gets so dense, it starts star formation. And this bright area in the center here, these are all new stars. And they, of course, they start to put out their solar energy, their sun energy, star energy. And that creates star wind, solar wind, which blows the hydrogen out. And that's why you get these shapes, because there's a wind and energy coming off these new stars. But that in itself starts to clump together more hydrogen, and you start to get star formation on these things. That's another one called the Soul Nebula. The Heart Nebula and the Soul Nebula are next to each other. It's another area of new star formation. This is the Rosette Nebula. It's exactly the same, cloud of hydrogen, and you can see where the new stars are forming, putting out the solar wind, creating this tunnel, but making more stars form where the hydrogen's getting compacted. And everyone, again, when you do this hobby, everyone has to get a picture of the Horsehead Nebula, which is very close to the lower left belt star of Orion. So there's the Horsehead Nebula, Flame Nebula, it's another famous one. So there you go. So that's it from me. Clear skies and keep looking up. If there's any questions or comments, I'll be very pleased to take them.
Thank you, Eric. That was brilliant. What a great talk. We've got quite a few questions through, so we'll try and get through them as quickly as we can. A couple of questions came through about the all-sky camera. Somebody actually asked before you mentioned it, if you had any candid animal shots. And I've got to say, I did love the cat appearing on the top. This is great. There was also another question coming through about how long it took to actually assemble the rooftop camera.
Ah, right. I'm trying to remember now, but I think I had it assembled. I think I had the guts. I think I had the equipment assembled once I'd made the decision, I'm doing this. I think I had it assembled within about 6 weeks. Certainly wasn't any longer than that. I had to work out how to put things together, but I'm kind of good at that sort of thing. So the drain pipe seemed obvious to me. I also do 3D printing. So when I had to put components together, 3D printing, and I can do a bit of design, so I got that right. People who are good at carpentry or working at, manipulate, they find things on the scrap heap. I'm sure they could work out supports and things for that as well. But I think it took me about 6 weeks. I was fortunate as well, even though we were in lockdown, it was kind of early and I was still able to get parts and supplies, because later on, because I think China had shut down dramatically, and they're the main manufacturers nowadays of equipment like that. So I got the stuff that I didn't have, I got within a few days or a week through like Amazon or
brilliant.
Yeah,
we've got other questions as well about getting cameras and what cameras to buy or how to position them. Where's the best place to position them, angle them? I'm assuming away from streetlights and things like that.
Yeah. Are you talking about all sky, or is it just?
I think general, just night sky photography.
Okay, so forgetting the northern lights or just taking pictures of the night sky with a type of lens. I'll mention the lens as well. So it's a digital SLR camera. Now they can be as cheap or as expensive as you can afford or want. But you can get cameras secondhand. People tend to forget there's a good secondhand market for specialist equipment. So, a new camera might cost you £700 or £1,000. Secondhand camera might cost you £250, £300, £400, which is, still expensive, but it's a damn sight more. But so a digital SLR camera, make sure you're able to manually set it. You can get ones that have got presets or auto, and they're okay, but you really want manual. So manual focus, manual ISO sensitivity settings, manual exposure times. The lenses, if you can get a range of lenses, a wide angle lens is great for taking wide areas of the sky, but a telephoto type lens, a 7300, and there's a firm called Sigma. They're not ultra cheap. They're probably say 120, 180 pounds for a 70 to 300 mil lens, but that's relatively cheap compared to what you can buy, and you'll make more than adequate quality pictures with that. So I hope that helps. Tripod, yeah, get a tripod.
Perfect. There's also a question. Oh, sorry.
So there's one other thing, is if you can get one of these remote operated switches, to operate your shutter, you don't want to be touching it because you'll put a shake into things. So a remote operated, cable operated shutter thing, it's essential. Yeah.
We've also had a question saying, can you capture images using just your mobile phone?
Yes, you can.
Perfect.
Modern phones. I'm an iPhone man, but I know people that have got Android operate, that software, and the cameras that are on them now are so sensitive and have got great resolution. You have to find a way of holding them steady. So again, rest them, or but you can buy or make a holder or a tripod for them. And you know, again, if you can use your delay, use your 5-second delay, so your hands away once you've pushed the button or whatever, you can take longish exposure. They can be a bit grainy, they can be a bit noisy, but you can process some of that out. So the answer is yes, you can use smartphones. Yeah.
Great. We've also had another question asking about how to get involved when you're based around the UK. So you mentioned before you had your traveling telescope. Are you able to book that?
You know, someone, that's an interesting, you've just put an idea in my head, of course, by asking that question. No, we tend to do it, right, we're a small club. We have about 60 members, but we have the observing team, there's possibly up to 10 of us, so it's not a huge amount. So it's up to how much time we have available, you know, so we're amateurs. If we were professional, yes, perhaps we could do that. It doesn't mean you can't say, I would like you to come to our place, because we would definitely try and fit that in. Because if you get people that are interested, you're 2/3 of the way there of having a great night, you know. So yeah, get in touch and see. If you go on our website, or if you're on Facebook, you can use the messenger system or whatever, just to inquire about something, and we'll always get back to you. We'll always try and help people if we can.
That's great. Have you got any further tutorials as well online or on like YouTube or your website on how to get involved?
That's something we haven't done. We haven't put them on YouTube. It's something we have discussed. Because we were in lockdown, we didn't quite know how to get, I mean, I know lockdown seems ages away now, but we didn't quite get round to that. But it's
I mean, you were busy building the camera as well, so.
Well, we were busy, we were trying to work. So we actually went online. We did what the Science Festival did, and went online with our monthly meetings, and that actually takes up a lot of time, believe it or not. But it's something that we would consider. You know, if somebody was demonstrating how to set up a tripod, because it's easy to set up one where the telescope's just rotating left and right and up and down and all has access. But when you use an astronomical equatorial mount, and that's the one people buy, they go on the Astronomy magazine, buy their son, daughter, themselves a good telescope costing several hundred, if not £1,000, and then they find it's very difficult to use. It's not intuitive, and that's where we come in as a club, because we'll help you, you know, before you try and sell it on the second-hand market for half the price.
Oh dear.
Yeah,
that's perfect. With the recent launch of the James Webb Telescope, what advancement do you see happening in the field of astronomy?
Now that's a hard question. I think what you're going to see is some of the things that Hubble proved. You'll see James Webb absolutely proven. Some of these Einstein's relativity things with gravitational lensing and all that. It will just be absolutely proved down to the 10th decimal place. Already, like, they use different cameras. They're using cameras in the near infrared, so that they pick up different things. And I don't know if you saw a recent picture of Jupiter.
Yeah.
And
incredible.
It looked very different. And even on the clouds, you know, the bands and the great red spots and the storms, there were different structures and things that became visible that you couldn't see on the visible light thing. The other one you saw were aurora. I hadn't seen them on Jupiter before. There were faint rings around Jupiter. Now, the scientists and the astronomers knew they were there, but they've never really been able to photograph them properly, and it pulled them out. So even in our solar system, there's definitely going to be discoveries of something. I mean, obviously, I don't know what it's going to be, but looking further out, there'll be things that they'll find. I am not an astrophysicist, so I'm not qualified to comment, but I find it fascinating. I go on the NASA YouTube things quite often and just digest what they throw at you, and it's just amazing stuff.
I know, it keeps coming, doesn't it? NASA's really.
Oh yeah, they're very good. They're very good at media. They're very good at publicizing themselves. Yeah.
Finally, the image of Saturn that you showed was incredible. What do you do with all the images that you capture? Do you have a favorite image as well?
Yeah, that Saturn image, that was off a bit of software. It's a free, it's called Stellarium. It's absolutely free to download and use. And it's great, again, for planning what you're going to look at, or if you've seen something, identifying what you've seen. But I have got pictures of Saturn. The planets weren't great to view over the last nearly 10 years, but they're coming back higher and higher on the horizon. So they're going to be on my to-do list for this coming season, because they're high enough that I should be able to get. I'm not saying as good as it's, well, no, maybe I will. My skills have improved, so maybe I will. Let's not say no. Yeah, what would I like to get? Oh, what a good question. I always have. At first, when I did it, I used to try and get as many things. I don't know, it was like collecting everything. But I still go back to some of my old favorites, because you do get better the more you do things. And see that one where I had the star that was dead, and it was a planetary nebula, the bubble. I'll go back to that this year, and I'll try and pull out more and more of the detail using my amateur equipment, because I think it's amazing that an amateur can get astro images that are as good as university astronomy departments got maybe 25, 30 years ago. And we can now actually compete with them because of the equipment you can buy and set up. And the internet has been fantastic, because there are forums, people that do this type of pastime, they help each other out. There's a bit of healthy competition. But we all help each other out, and you make advances all the time. It's a hard question to answer that. I don't know what, I'm going to have to think about that now.
Well, that was truly incredible, and it really does inspire everybody to get involved. If an amateur can capture these images, you can work your way up and learn. And as you say, it's a great community as well.
Oh yeah.
So thank you very much for that amazing talk today.
Thank you, Catherine.
And thank you to the audience as well. Thanks for everybody watching on YouTube today. Some festival housekeeping before I go. So Orkney International Science Festival continues to run until Wednesday 7th, with plenty online and in-person events to help you get involved. Another opportunity to see Eric again as a speaker host this time is at the Mystery of Stronsay Monster, which is held at the Orkney Theatre. This event is both online and in person tomorrow at 6 p.m, and it promises to be absolutely fantastic. Another event which may interest you is our Changing Climate Reports from the Frontline. So Professor Peter Wadhams of Cambridge University brings stories from varied places, from melting permafrost to parched farmland, and shows the direct impact it has on many lives. This eye-opening talk will be live streamed on YouTube on Wednesday the 7th at 11:30. The link will be available for both of them on the website. If you've enjoyed the festival, don't forget to like us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and follow on our YouTube channel. You can keep up with all the things that go on throughout the year throughout our major festival event. Thank you very much and good night.
Okay, we are